Hi all you YouTubers, Steve Pease here, StephenPease.com, and my new book is Enigma in Whitechapel. If you go to my website you can read all about it. It's a pretty good book, I'd say. I'm starting a bit of a video log where I want to reach out to people who are thinking of writing their own book, but for the first time, as I did. I did write a genealogy book, and in my last video I explained all that. But now I want to talk to you about actually sitting down and writing a novel, and whether it's fiction or non-fiction or historical or mystery or love or romance, whatever it is. They all basically follow the same concepts as far as writing is concerned. The first thing you want to do is tackle the writing end of it first. Write your manuscript, and if you don't know how, go on the internet, on YouTube. It's a wealth of information. You can look up things like word count, the size of your book. I learned that fiction books are a different size than, say, how-to books or reality books or non-fiction. So that's where you start, is finding out how big your manuscript has to get before it would sell. What you're trying to do is make it fit in with all of the other books in the same class. I made a little bit of a boo-boo on my first book, this one here, because it's not quite, I don't feel comfortable with the length. I should have had another 20,000 words and I would have felt better. But anyway, go on the internet, on YouTube, find out book length, discover your other things that you could use, like Grammarly, for one thing, is very good. It will do all of your punctuation, your spelling, and some of your sentence structure. You have to pay for Grammarly, but I think for a novice writer it's well worth it. Once you are well into your book and approaching, say, the 3/4 mark, then you can start looking around for how you're going to publish it, if that's what you choose to do. Be aware right from the top, I'm not going to lie to you, because I've got nothing to gain here. I'm just trying to spread a little information. Make sure you have your checkbook handy, because none of this is cheap. I've learned various ways to cut my costs on the next book, but not this one. I'll tell you up front, this book cost me around $4,000 to get it in the form that it's right now. $4,000 Canadian. So look, the first thing you would do is decide which way you want to go with publishing. There's 3 ways that you could go. You can find a publisher. There's lots of them out there. The method you go there is you have to send them your manuscript and wait. They'll read it, and 9 times out of 10 they return it, or just send you an email and say, sorry, it's not good enough. So only about 5% of the manuscripts, I'd say, that are submitted are actually chosen. And then you're at their beck and call. They may pay you for it, but then they want to change this, they want to change that, and you basically have no say in it once you sign the contract. The second way is self-publishing, and that's the way I went. I'll just mention the third way because we'll get it out of the way, and that is to do it all yourself, and that's nuts. Don't even go there. Don't even look it up. Self-publishing is hard enough. To self-publish, of course, the first thing you do is find yourself a self-publisher. I went with a place called Pease Press. There's others. Amazon will do it. Kobo. Anyway, there's others. You go on their website and find out what they offer. Most of them have packages that they will sell you, and in those packages they will offer certain services. They'll give you certain services. For example, in Pease Press, originally I went with the launch package, which is the lowest one, $2,000. Thank you very much. And for the launch package, what they offer you is a manuscript edit. That's the first thing. And what that is an editor who will read your book, your manuscript, and then he gets back to you and tells you what's wrong with it, but doesn't correct anything. He doesn't do anything other than tell you what's wrong with it. Now, that's the same guy, now that he's written your book, or he or she has read your book, they are the people, or he or she is the person that writes your back cover, your about the author, about the book. And they do a very good job. They're very talented that way, but it costs. It's part of the package, and their services alone may be $600. You'll get that back. You'll see what's wrong with your product, your manuscript, and then it's up to you to revise it. So how do you do that? Well, you would have to go and find an editor. Now, the people that you're dealing with, the self-publisher, will offer to edit it for you. But like I said, get your checkbook out, because it's ridiculous what they charge. And there's 4 types of editing that they offer, besides light editing and all that sort of thing, manuscript editing. Each one of them have a price, and although when you buy the package, the manuscript edit may be included in the package, but it doesn't really do you any good other than knowledge. You learn what's wrong with your book, which is fine. But to get it further edited, with them, they're talking like 2-3 cents a word. And if you have a 70,000 word book, do the math. It's not cheap. What I did is I wasn't willing to pay that kind of money for an edit. So I looked around locally, and I found an editor who lived locally, so that if I had to go and see them, I could. And the price was drastically cheaper. I paid $500 to have my book edited. Now, did I need to do that? For my next book, I have 4 kids. 3 of them are girls, and of course my son is married, so I have 4 girls that like to read. My son doesn't like to read. What I'm going to do is give it to them, give them the manuscript one at a time. So the first girl will read it, first daughter will read it, get back to me, tell me what's wrong with it, what her suggestions are. The second one will read it and give me further feedback, then the third, then the fourth. Then I'll get it, I'll do a rewrite, correct what I think needs to be corrected, and go with that. Now, if you go with an outside editor, be careful, because we all have a certain way of talking and a certain way of writing. If you give it to an editor who likes to change your book to please them, more of their writing style will come out than yours. And that's not what you want. The editor I hired, that's exactly what happened. I had to change, re-edit it to change some of her corrections that she made. But anyway, you can sort that out. The editing process is very important, especially spelling, punctuation, and sentence structure. And I'll be honest with you, I was a policeman for 34 years. I wrote a lot of reports. And I thought I was good at it. But I'm finding out now that those reports probably sounded pretty terrible if you read them back. Which gets me to another point. Sometimes, if you read back your own manuscript out loud, and that's a trick I learned on YouTube, read your manuscript out loud to another family member, your wife, daughter, husband, whatever. You'll pick up a lot of mistakes. You may have written it down and it sounded in your head, it sounded perfect. But when you read it out loud to somebody else, boy, I'll tell you, those sentences that just didn't make sense will stand right out. And then you can mark them down and correct them. And I think with all these editing processes, you don't need to go to a university to get a doctorate on literature to edit a common book. And I mean, this is nothing special, this book here. I mean, it's written in a common layman's terms. I don't use sentences and words and everything that the common guy wouldn't recognize and be comfortable with. I'm not a professor. I'm not well educated, but I can write a book. So there you go. Publishers, if you go with Amazon, be careful. Amazon creates space, that sort of thing. It's all owned by Amazon, and all they're looking is to get your book up and running, whether it makes money or not, and they don't care what quality it is. So be careful when you're going with them. Make sure that your manuscript is well edited and ready for another reader. Because after all, the only way you're going to get a following is if your books are readable, if people feel comfortable reading them. If they're awkward to read, you aren't going to get a following. So anyway, this is the first of a series of videos that I'm going to do. I don't want to keep it too long. I just wanted to start it off with the writing process. I got a blast out of it. It's the best thing I've done in 20 years. I just sit there, I can write a couple of thousand words every time I sit down, and I really enjoyed it. So anyway guys, StephenPease.com is my web address, and please subscribe here on YouTube and give me some comments. Tell me what you like and what you don't like. And give me the old thumbs up if you like it, or thumbs down if you don't. Thanks.